Maybe. There, we're on air. We're live. Welcome to we did it. Welcome to the Boosting Achievement Google Hangout. It's our one Google Hangout for the late fall of 2017, where we are going to reflect on a book that we're all reading that I'm quite fond of. This is a book that I wrote with Anna Mattis. It's called Boosting Achievement, Reaching Students with Interrupted or Minimal Education. And one of the things I love the most about it is the people that are interacting with me and Anna about their practice, how they're using what we wrote about and how it's affecting their practice, and also questions and things that maybe from the book don't necessarily work and in their reality, and that makes everything better. So I love these conversations, and I'm proud to have all these people here tonight. I'm going to ask each one if they could introduce themselves, and we will start with Emily.
Well, hi everyone. My name is Emily Francis. I am an ESL teacher in Concord, North Carolina. I teach kindergarten through 5th grade. I have all grade levels. It is my passion, my job, my profession. I don't know what else to tell you. It's just I love what I do. It is not a job. I get up every morning and enjoy what I do. I teach English language learners because I lived it. I know what it is to be a language learner. So I'm excited to join you, and I definitely love the book. And it's just one of the tools that every teacher should have in their bookshelves.
Awesome. Thank you for saying that. Jeffrey is one of our newest friends. And Jeffrey, please tell us about yourself.
Hi. You know, this is a little surreal for me because I feel like I'm talking with stars. You know, you're all these people that I've found through Twitter, and it's a little shocking to me that I'm talking to Carol and Emily and you folks who I've been following. So my name is Jeffrey Robinson, and I'm an elementary teacher, but I'm currently the ESL and ELD coordinator in London, Ontario for Thames Valley District School Board. And Carol and I had a chat about what ELD means, because it's interesting how we label students. But I'm working with 75 elementary ESL teachers and all of our district teachers who are supporting ELLs.
And you call it ELD. What we say in the United States, what we use SIFE, the term SIFE, you guys are using ELD, is what you're saying.
Yes.
What you were telling me, right? And that
Right.
can be confusing because ELD is something different for us, English language development.
The ESL teachers in Ontario think that SLIFE sounds funny, but when we talk about the meaning of the acronyms, you know, SLIFE means a lot. It has a lot more in it than English literacy development students,
Yes.
so, because we're after the literacy piece, right?
Okay, yeah. Well, you know, I think we know that the acronyms only get us so far anyway. It's important to know, and that was a very important thing for me to know as I was working with you and your teachers. But then we get down to who these students really are.
Well, I'm excited to talk to all of them.
So thank you, because you're like a star to us too.
Yes.
Serious. All right. And then Katie DiGregorio.
Hi.
Hey, Katie.
Yay.
So I'm from New York. We call it English as a New Language here in New York. I've been teaching ESL now 2 years. Prior to that, I taught Spanish, so I have a pretty strong bilingual background. And let's see, I work mostly with 11th graders. My students are in 11th grade. And just when I started reading this book, it was just so refreshing because it was nice to feel like I wasn't on an island about how I was feeling about how students can learn and how students are, and that it's they can and it's not they can't, which I find is really powerful. And I love that about it. So this is so cool. I'm still like on the Texas high. I like keep telling my husband I want to come back so bad. You can see my husband is playing video games in the background with the dog. They're just hanging out.
I love your dog. The dog is part of the boosting achievement.
Your husband's lucky we let you come back.
But yeah, and it's a great book, and I've made some awesome friends. And shout out to you guys, because we were doing the QSSA the other day, and at the elementary school, I brought it to my friend, and she sent me a video of them doing it, and they loved it. So it was awesome. So
QSSA is the bomb.
Yeah, and then we added Katie Topples, he said, she said, and the kids loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's even more language development. We have to do a whole other show. We should do regular Google Hangouts and explain, go into some of these strategies deeper.
Kind of just maybe like a strategy showcase, kind of like, hey, I tried this week.
Yeah, we could do that. And, well, Katie keeps us legit because she's working on her doctorate.
Yes,
and
I just defended my video on Tuesday, and I passed. Woohoo! So I move on.
You defended?
Yeah, I defended my portfolio on Tuesday. Yep.
That's awesome.
So
that is
very
awesome because she used several of the books in the ELL Chat Book Club. She is, Boosting Achievement being one of them, and ELL Frontiers, and the stuff we just know works.
Yeah. So
I'm just so proud to be part of that.
It's cool because I just talked with my dissertation chairperson. I'm going to actually use my best practice to form my study. So I'm very excited about that, and I'll be sharing that with everybody. So, nice. Yeah, this is great. Ooh, new person. What's up? Hi,
yes. Allison joined us.
Hey, Allie.
Yay. Let's see. That's Allison's avatar. So let's see if she can get with us in a second. You have a moment because we're just to Katie. So let's go. We'll come back to Allison.
All right.
She's very well behaved.
And it's going to snow here in New York. So I'm jealous of all you. Where it's warm.
It's snowing in Texas. I want you to know it's snowing right now.
Really?
In Texas.
You have a moment. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, Michelle. Okay. So we have North Carolina, we have Canada, we have New York. And Michelle, tell us about you and where you are.
Hi, I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm an ESL instructional coach here. And I work with high school students. Yeah, and we have a lot of SLIFE students in our district.
And I've had the pleasure of seeing her present at WIDA for the first time this year. She's an excellent presenter, and it was a thrill to get to meet you and your team.
Well, we use
and so I'm so excited for you to be here. Well, I was super excited. But y'all are great presenters. It was a great session. So thanks for everything you're doing. And we also let's see. Yep, we have Tamara. Tamara, can you hear us?
Yes. Hi.
Yay. Tell us about you.
So, yes, I'm Tami Burson. I am an ELL specialist in the Houston area, so I'm really close to Carol. And we are just doing stuff. I'm at the secondary level, so middle school through high school. And I've been working a lot with our teachers as an instructional coach, and then also working with our students. And so it's really exciting. I've been excited about the book and everything that's going on. It's been great.
Oh, I'm so excited, Tami. So tell me, where in Houston? Where are you?
I'm at New Caney ISD.
Yeah.
So it's just on 59 North. So.
Oh my gosh, you're close. You're close. We should visit each other's schools.
Yeah, I know.
That would be great. So you're working with secondary teachers. You're supporting the secondary teachers in New Caney.
Yes.
Fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. Okay, so I know Alice, and welcome, of course. I'm real happy, and I love seeing the things that you were tweeting there in the book study, in the book chat, in the slow chat and stuff. So thanks for joining us with that. So we're still trying to see if Allison said she was happy watching, but she wanted to join. So I gave her the link.
Trouble with her internet. She said it's too slow.
Ah, bummer. Well, you know what, Allison, if you turn off your camera, then sometimes slow internet lets us hear your voice easier because it doesn't have to pull so much. So you could try that.
Okay. Can you all hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. And your avatar is so pretty that you're fine.
It's better than what I look like now at bedtime, so that's good.
So tell us about yourself real quick, Allison.
I work for WIDA, and I'm a facilitator for WIDA, and I know Michelle that way. It's close to Emily, although we've not met. Huntersville, really. So I'm not far from you. And I work a lot with educators who are serving SLIFE or SIFE learners. And Michelle can attest to this, that I've shared about your book at workshops that I've done. And I love sharing this great resources with others. So thanks for letting me listen in and gain some insight from you all during this session.
Thank you. Thank you. You broke up there a little bit at the beginning, but we did hear that you said you work with WIDA.
Yeah.
And I was at your session at WIDA, and I got so many, and I didn't even get to go to the whole thing because I was presenting at the same time, but I caught the end of one of your workshops, and you were sharing so much great stuff. The talking moves and videos that we could take back. And I would just encourage everybody, because the window just opened to present at WIDA next year. And I don't regret a minute of going and being part of it. And so hopefully we can all have a big meetup there next year. Think about putting in a proposal. Everyone, Tammy, everyone, Jeffrey, come on down. And I mean, for me, it's at WIDA, we're in Texas. People wondered why I was going, because we're ELPS and TELPAS, but in an overarching best practice way, WIDA has the same sheltered strategies and best practices and what we want for students to move them along in language. And so I found it a fantastic use of my time. Betty, we need to be crossing over. Just like all those North Carolina people came down to our Texas conference. I'm trying to get up there to Jeffrey's conference in Canada. It's
We're
all
gonna
good
get you
stuff.
here.
I mean,
we'll make it happen. I'll send a dog sled.
I'll come. I think it's good for everybody that we all just keep sharing the way we are. So thanks everybody for being in my PLN. And why don't we go through and talk about, because this was supposed to be kind of a wrap up, because we all did a book study together and we all kind of plugged in over 5 weeks to varying degrees when we could. We had a Thanksgiving break in there. We had all kinds of craziness. What was either a question or a takeaway or something you really think teachers ought to know? And we can start over again. Emily is featured in the book. I just put out a podcast today where I talked about how I first met Emily. We were wrapping up writing the book, and I put in some ways that our classes connected through a Kahoot. So I love Emily's connection to the book. But Emily, from your lens, and I always have people tell me, is this a book for elementary teachers?
Oh, absolutely.
Because we wrote it with secondary teachers in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. No, working with elementary students, we have especially upper grades, 3rd through 5th grade, that they come already with literacy background that they can read and write. So this book brings out, okay, you need to use their literacy in their native language to develop that and so on, and they'll develop second language. So we use that in our schools. So that's definitely a highlight. The culturally responsive section, it's just, to me, it's just the best part of the book. Of course, the whole book is excellent. But it's just so important to get to know students' stories and just see their passion and see what they're good at and just highlight what's best out of them to it's not all about language. Yes, we want to teach them the language, and I think that's our job, essentially. But it's just more than that. It's just, it goes all connected. It's just culture and what student is worth, what makes it best. So that's my highlight.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you for saying that. I have so much I want to say, but I'm going to hold my comments till it's my turn. Jeffrey, what about you?
It's so hard to be quiet because, you know, we're all, well, I am verbose, but when we're talking this way, you have to wait your turn. So it's good practice. So there's so many things to talk about in here, and it's the first time I've been able to talk to Carol about her book. But what I'm going to steal from my colleague, and actually you met Denise, my co-coordinator, and I'm going to steal from her because there's a line that she wrote on page 32, and it really affected her. And then, you know, we talked a lot about it, and it's but who am I to hold him back from trying? So, you know, you're talking with Hamza there, and you know, I was working with some teachers today, and one of the things, and they're very supportive teachers, but, you know, one of the things is they start with is, well, he can't do that. So, I mean, he can't do what the other kids are doing, but they want to try. And so they're reading texts that are too high for them. And they want to follow along and be part of the groups for them. And, you know, I've said, you can't stand in their way from learning. So that's a big your book for us.
I love that line. And I hadn't even remembered writing that specific line. I don't think. I got interviewed by Derek Rodenizer of Beyond the Staff Room. He read the book and interviewed me about it way back when. And he said, I read this one line. Let me read you this line, because it made me, I about fell out of my chair when I read it. And that was his line. Who am I to hold them back? And it was about Hamza in that minute. Because shame on me. I was trying to talk this child out of trying something, you know. And I mean, we've all had those moments, or at least I can admit that I've had that moment where, oh honey, I know you want to, but this is going to be so difficult, and I don't want you to be disappointed. And his eyes just told me, you know, he wanted to try to code, even though he couldn't read the coding, and he didn't want to do the non-literate one. He wanted to do it. It didn't.
And you know, so so elementary in our world, by the way, goes from kindergarten to grade 8. So when I say elementary, that's all of those things. But yeah, but like, you know, secondary. So are you? Well, just these days we watch you and we really feel like you're in another country. But one of the things that happens in secondary school here is guidance counseling, and students are counseled about their pathways. And so many times we've heard about teachers counseling them away from things that are not going to be successful for them. But, you know, who are we to stand in the way of their dreams and the possibilities? And I think that they move on to regret our standing in their pathway.
I think you're right. I think there's a delicate balance there from pushing kiddos beyond their zone of proximal development. And that, because this is a different kind of thing. This is not your typical zone of proximal development. Like, you learn to read and decode when you're 4 or 5, 3, 4 or 5, and so you're not there yet. This is a child that's learned so many other things because there's no cognitive delay. So how can I say that's too difficult for you? I have no idea what they're capable of. I can only see from my lens and the kind of things that we measure. And so I agree that any child who really wants to try something, I really have started going, well, let's give it a shot, because, you know, if you fail, we don't fail. We fail forward. We learned something. And so let's try it. And that has opened so many doors for me.
Yeah.
Since Hamza taught me that. So thank you for that, Jeffrey. I love that part.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Katie.
So just thinking about what Jeffrey just said about, you know, that idea of, I guess, pushing through, you know, this year, I think I talked about this, is I'm pushing my kids to think big and think that that goes back to the grit piece in the book about that they can push through. So right now we're reading Champions Game, and we just did chapter Go Big or Go Home, and I was like, what's your go big or go home moment right now for them? And what I'm finding is that if we show them that we believe in them, what they'll do is incredible. And they I have a girl, she came here in last September. She was in Haiti. She lived in Haiti, survived the earthquake, lost one of her parents, only girl. She's here by herself, and she is just kicking butt. And what's awesome about it is that I think is to her is I just recommended her for an advanced placement course for next year to take an AP course.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because of her work ethic. And it's not, she pushes the kids around her. And because I believed in her, she started to believe in herself. And I think that's what's great about what we do is that if we show the kids that we're vulnerable and we have weak spots and there's things going on, I mean, that to me is the most important thing. And if we can kind of like Emily sharing your story, and I shared with my kids about being kind to each other. I was bullied in high school. You got to be kind to each other. You have to really give them that human aspect. And I think you open up like that, you build that trust with them. So that is, we could all talk strategies till we're blue in the face, right? We all know this works, but we're all special people because we have that extra heart and we have that extra piece that really is awesome for the types of kids we have. I mean, I told them I have something to do tomorrow. They're like, we're not coming tomorrow. I'm like, that's funny. That's funny. That's funny because I will find you is what I tell them. I will find you.
That's so great.
So I think
that's so great.
Takeaway is that, and this was what I felt when I came back from Texas is we often focus on what they can't do instead of what they can do, I was, that was my biggest takeaway. And I try to constantly focus on that every single day is, all right, what can this kid do? If he can raise his hand and say hi. Yeah. And I taught growth mindset the other day. I said, what's something that you say that is fixed and let's make it positive. I pulled up Sylvia Duckworth's, her sketch note, which is awesome. And I said, okay, let's do it. And it's all about that kind of stuff. Just like what Jeff said, it's I know you can. And what can I do to help you get there?
I love it. It's such a different, when I started teaching these kiddos a few years ago, it was just seen as a huge problem in our district because the group that was a problem they were becoming a problem, and it was circumstances. It was the way that we had to serve them. They didn't have a lot of native language peers. They were very frustrated. They didn't have a common language. They were teenagers. They were those middle teenagers. And it just was I know we've all said this before, a lot of times if you're working with students, not just ESL students, but the underschooled, the newcomers, or the new, the SLI students, you're one of, or you're maybe one or two in your building or sometimes even in your district. And it's so easy to focus on the overwhelming what they can't do. And to me, that's been one of the biggest things of the book coming out and going big, social media, and going global with it, is there's so many of us and we can remind each other, but wait a minute, look at all the things they can do that the other kids can't do. And we just have to give them literacy. We can do that with 5 and 6 year olds. If we're in the right mindset and they're in the right mindset and everybody believes it. Right. So it saddens me because I don't dispute the There's a lot of research when you go to conferences and you hear about how hard it's going to be to get these kids up to level. I don't dispute that research. I just take it with a grain of salt, because you're talking about research that's been done with teachers with what mindset, with what expectations for kids,
right?
And
if
what,
you do
what expectations?
Yeah, 100%.
What did the kids believe they could do?
Yeah, and if they believe it and they're trying that, and then if there really is some sort of deficit that requires, maybe a special education classification,
Cognitive delay, that's going to be a percentage of every demographic.
So
that is not this demographic.
Right. So what you might happen is, if you're trying everything and you're getting them to believe and they're doing all that, and then they still need a little help, that's okay, because you believe in them. Right.
One of the most powerful things too that I heard the students themselves say, because we have a student panel of refugee students who had gone through unimaginable things, because that's another thing I hear a lot is, well, they all are coming from trauma or something traumatic or something hard, and that can impede learning. Okay, well, you need to get to know your students, and students who need counseling. Like, we're in Houston, we just went through this horrific hurricane where all the kiddos needed us to be hands around them and finding out who needed what. That doesn't mean that you don't hold a high bar and believe in them, because a lot of times giving them those opportunities are exactly what they need to overcome what they came from.
Yes.
It's not, oh, pobrecito, we're not going to, it's allowing them to be part of the whole education process they finally got to.
And in many occasions too, students come not believing in themselves because of what had happened. Especially when I came from Guatemala, I just didn't think I had the ability to be successful in school. So it's just, it's up to us to bring the best out of our students, to show them that it doesn't matter what you've been through. As a matter of fact, because if you've been through all this, it's going to help you through what's coming up next. It's not easy. I tell my kids, it is not easy, but that doesn't mean it's impossible.
And it gets easier every day. That's my favorite thing to say. Like, they were all freaking out about my leg break and how horrible it was at the first. I was like, but you know what? It's better today than it was yesterday. And tomorrow it's going to be better. And the next day it's going to be better. It's difficult, but it doesn't stay this difficult. And neither does learning a language, and neither does literacy, and neither does getting over anything that you keep moving forward toward. So, but anyway, yeah, that really struck me. So thank you. Like Jeffrey said, it's really hard not to talk. So Michelle, what did you want to say?
Well, I enjoyed hearing from everybody so far about viewing, recognizing kids and the culture and the assets they bring. And I guess the thing that struck me, working as a coach with teachers, we're always trying to think about how to make things engaging, how to make things relevant. Because a lot of times in high school, you see a lot of bored kids sitting in classes. And to me, what was really striking was you didn't have the fanciest materials. You relied on students, community, and what was around you, and news articles that were free online. And you really showed the kids how to engage in the world around them and make cahoots about their cultures and themselves. And that's really engaging, because we really like to talk about ourselves. So, and I know it's true and it's free. And the language experience approach is so important to scribe for kids and to give them a voice and to share an experience together, because that's another thing I see in high schools. We have so many different groups and kids that fight, and sometimes we lose that sense of community. The social contract was really important. What do we all want from each other? So to me, really thinking about those resources that we have and viewing kids as individuals is really important to me.
I love it. I love it, because I feel like that means it can work in any district, any classroom, because it's not about materials. It's not even about the internet, because you don't have to share it out there. You can have a very powerful classroom community sharing with each other and writing about each other, and anybody can do that. So I love language experience approach.
Yeah. And they love it. It's meaningful to them. So.
Yeah, they do love it. That's awesome. Thank you for that. Okay, Tami, what you want to say?
You'll keep talking about the same thing that I had in my mind with the grit and the growth mindset, because to me, that just spoke so much to me about, you know, what they or what our students' potential, what their potential is, I guess, and being that advocate for them, because so many times I don't feel like they have that advocate in their, you know, in their life whenever they're first coming, and then they get in school and it becomes difficult. But just helping them to be able to achieve that growth mindset is such an inspiring thing for them, I think. And Emily, I want to thank you, because our students, I know I tweeted it about a week ago, but I shared with them your story, and it was just amazing that I had never seen that group of students so focused and reading your story, and they were just so excited about it and wanted to talk about it and wanted to discuss their life, but also just being able to come to the text and be able to discuss it in a meaningful way was just huge for them. So I think that showing them that they are capable of doing these things, and that it's not something that's just, you know, they're not lesser, I guess, does that make sense, than some of our other students. And so I think it's just huge for them. So.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I co-teach in classes, and I push into 3 sections of a co-taught class. And it's very strange because the dynamic, you know, they walk in, there's 12, now I have 14. There's 14 in the English, and then there's like 14 gen ed. And you can, through that, building that rapport with each other, there's no more that natural division. It kind of happens. So we did an activity, and one of my students, it was a phenomenal drawer, and all the kids like, yo, that's so good. And I tweeted it, and it was all the kids, not the L's, not the gen eds. It was all of them in one picture. And it's about giving them the best opportunity to succeed, that they can do what the others are doing, maybe not at the same level, but they can learn the content. Absolutely. And trust me, I mean, I'm in New York, and the stuff is hard, and it's very...
Oh, tell me about it.
Oh, yeah.
See, and I think what they don't understand, and even what we forget about as teachers, is whether you're learning a second language, or you're learning a second language and the first literacy you've ever had, right? Whatever, and you feel so far off other high school students or middle school, 6th, 7th, 8th, even upper elementary. As a person, because I was an off-level reader, I remember thinking, what hope is there for me? Because I can't get up to their level. These people are going to college in a year or two. I can't read even at a high school level. How am I ever going to be in the real world? I was literally scared that, because I felt illiterate, and if I felt illiterate, I know our kids feel illiterate. And here's the thing, is that if we do through language experience approach and help them understand about decoding, and the more you track the print and the more you engage with the print, the more you'll be able to decode, but you can already analyze. So we're going to let you do the grade level stuff while we're over here teaching you how to decode. What I think we forget, and that they don't know, is that most of what's around in our world is written at an 8th grade level. If you pick up a magazine, if you pick up something in the grocery store, the newspaper, whatever, that doesn't look like my explanation of benefits. That doesn't look like my college degree, textbook. Yeah. because the world, it has a readability level that has to be around an 8th grade level for people so that it can reach masses. So I think our kids think that they're way far off, and we can get you in a few years to where you can be functioning just fine. And we'll give you some strategies to take a test better, but that doesn't make you a better reader. What makes you a better reader is more reading. So don't stop reading, and you'll just keep going up in those levels. But I think that what hope is there for them is ridiculous when most of these kids don't have a cognitive delay. I think they just don't know that the path is not as far down the road as you think it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
To being able to be, completely functioning fine.
So did you see Allison's comment, because she can't speak because of her microphone?
Allison.
She typed her. So she
Someone
wanted to
read
say that her big takeaway was that the bad news that students, the bad news is that they are older English learners, but the good news is that they are older English learners. And I want you to know she does that in her trainings. I was in a training with her last week, a WIDA training, and she holds your book up and reads that quote to us. So,
Oh, Allison, I love you. I've loved Allison from before I ever got to meet her at WIDA. You go to these conferences and it's such a thrill to meet the people that you virtually hug with emojis all the time. And she's definitely, that's how it's going to be when I finally get up to Canada, Jeffrey. You and all those teachers up there. I just feel like we know each other so well, and we're so like-minded. Everybody that I get to interact with, and it's such an honor that y'all quote the book, but I think it's because it echoes what you already know, and you just scream it.
I think half of Ontario is following you, Carol.
I love that. I'm missing my Thursday night right now. I'm on Voice Ed Canada on Thursday night. I'm on Ed Mentors. So I'll do a shout out for Voice Ed Radio. And so I've been up in Ontario with Stephen Hurley and Derek Rodenizer and those guys for like a year. They adopted this one Texas girl into their show for a while. And so I appreciate that very much, because, we're having a hard time in the United States with newcomers, immigrants, refugees. We're having a real hard time as educators coming to terms with how things have changed in the last year. And we look to Canada, and I don't mind telling you, there's a lot of jealousy at least from me,
Trudeau love
on what I read. There's so
Trudeau.
much love.
Trudeau love.
Well, there's lots of reasons I suppose you might like him, but it's a challenge too, because in my district, we just received since August, and then the holiday in September, about 500 new arrivals, and a major chunk of them are Syrian refugees. I have a school that has 975 kids in it, and we think 400 of them are Arabic speaking, and about 200 of them are Syrian. Perhaps that's an estimate, but what they bring with them, they're lovely, but what they bring with them is their stories, and the challenge that we're feeling right now is immense, but we're doing our part to take care of those people, I think.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. And I see people like you.
Yeah. We have a number of Syrian kids in one of my schools, and it's sad because historically they would have been in school and had access to really great educations, but because of everything that's been going on, they haven't been in school, and so it's really frustrating to them and their families.
It's really frustrating.
What's really good about, in kind of piggybacking off what Allison said, is, since, they can be older, you can have these more meaningful, deeper, you can talk about, do some reading and current events and really understanding what's going on sometimes in the world, so that they're aware and, really kind of use that, the history or the geography and all that kind of stuff. You can use that, and you can
the current events. They deepen the learning of your. It's overwhelming. I understand, especially because of the language barrier when they first get there. But I totally agree with Katie. They bring these gifts, their knowledge, just their point of view and perspective.
Oh yeah.
And then you don't have the fact that they're not educated.
Yeah.
They're all so amazing, but the secondary kids, Alison, you made it such a good point, because we can talk about it all night, but people to say and about and who they are and how quickly they blossom into their new spots is amazing, and they're so inspirational. And what's the boy's name, Carol, from near the end of the book?
Is it Osama?
No. I'll get there.
Ali? The boy that was from Syria was missing a couple of years in the middle of the book?
No, he's Spanish speaking.
Oh.
Gerson.
Gerson.
Yeah.
Gerson. Yeah, he's from El Salvador. Yeah.
So we're busy.
We all love Gerson.
We're busy right now trying, there are so many role models that exist within our own system. And I think what we see is when they tell their stories, boy, can they motivate everybody. So I'll be quiet now, because
I think that's fabulous, because that Hassan video has thousands of views. We had to move it to another channel, and it got another 1,000 views on the other channel because people are sharing it. And I love that people share it, because it motivates people all the time. But I love that almost more, that it inspires people to look to because that kid is still in our system. He's in a high school down the road from us, and he's a senior this year. And so you have people like that. We all have people like that that are brave and want to tell their story, and it will motivate the other ones to do that. Emily did that for me, and we're adults, and it changed how I even talk to teachers. It's amazing.
They're there, and they're worth finding, I think, right?
Yeah, they are. And it's relationships, right? It goes right back to relationships. There's a kiddo that sits in the back of my class that people don't know what to do with, because he seems like such a thug, and he's so not engaging. And even when I had a student teacher come, she's like, what do you do for him? I'm like, still trying to figure it out. And but the more choice I give him in how he shows me things and allow him to use technology. He's just shy about speaking, but I found out that all day long he will write in Spanish, translate it into Google English, fill out all the work, and come and ask me if it's correct. And then he'll go back to the girl he's got kind of a crush on, I think. Anyway, the girl next to him, but he'll go back to where he feels safe, and he'll practice it.
Multitasking.
If I had been so rigid this year that he has to do it the way everybody else is doing it, we'd still be butting heads. But I've really made a lot. It's worth getting to know these kids and giving up a little bit of control. Sometimes that's really hard, but realizing that every single one of them can do it in the right conditions.
Yeah. And teaching them to be, it's us as teachers coming out of our comfort zones, taking a leap of faith, trying something new that maybe we've never tried before. But isn't that the best part about teaching, is what you may or may not get at the end? And if it fails, it's not, listen, if you teach the vocab word wrong, the kid's gonna be okay. You know what I'm saying? That's how I look at it. If the lesson bombs and the kid comes back the next day, then there you have a win, because the kid came back.
It's so true. We beat ourselves up, and really, just like Emily said earlier this week, you just need them to feel important and happy. And somebody who feels important and happy is going to find success. because then those messages that they get all day long, and it hurts my heart that they get messages all day long that make them feel that we think they can't do it.
Yes. And they know it, and they know it. Sometimes you don't even have to say anything. They can see it in the teacher's reactions.
I gave an example today. Like, I was a bad kid. I was that kid in the back of the class. I was in trouble all the time, and I was trying hard not to get called on. And so I gave a vibe, don't call on me. And if you called on me, there was usually going to be a problem. Because I didn't know the answer. I wasn't paying attention. It was this vicious cycle, right? So I was a kid that didn't get called on. But there were a couple of kids in our class that always got called on, and they had their hands up all the time. And I remember who they are, right? Because these are my friends. And you know what that tells me, though, is that I know that I don't know it. And now I know that you know that I don't know it. Because you're not calling on me because you don't think that I know the answer. And so every time that you don't call on one of us sitting back over here, you're just reinforcing the fact that you know that we don't. You're reinforcing what we know is what we're not smart. We can't do it. And, so I'm a huge fan of that QSSA, because if it was a norm of the classroom that we're going to randomly call on somebody, but I'm going to give you a minute, you're going to give a signal when you think you have an answer, and you're going to, even if you don't, you're going to get a chance to get an answer and practice it. And then I don't know who I'm going to call on. It's not me. It's these popsicle sticks. Mm-hmm. Do you get that? Just that for an ESL student or a kiddo who's behind, or if nothing else, you're not giving the kid the message that you think they can't answer. And if they can't answer, still, after all that, there's the poster. You can ask a friend for help. You can ask for another to repeat. You can ask a couple of things to get you even out of that. And I think some of those things seem trite, but they're not. They're huge for the messages that we give students about how we feel about them. I don't know. Jeffrey, I know you want to say something. I can feel it.
There's too much to say. I'll take over. Don't let me.
Go ahead. Who wants to say something besides me? We're up on time pretty soon.
I talked a lot, and I could talk a lot. But, it's just so cool because, again, like, it's 9:55 on a Thursday during the holiday season, and people got 1,000. Carol's got a bad leg. You're up in Canada. I'm here in I got the video game back. But we're all here talking about doing what we can for kids. And that, to me, speaks so much volume. Because some people, some educators just work their 7 to 3 or their 8 to whatever their hours. But and we all do this. We put so much into it, and I'm so thankful for this because it is keeping me on the positive track and feeling like, we are doing something good for these kids. And not only for our kids, but for the community of educators that we are all a part of. And, like I said, Jeff, I wasn't yawning because of you. I'm just telling you.
No, I was just picking on you.
That's okay. It's funny. You have a Canadian accent. I got my definite Long Island accent.
Oh, is it too strong for you? I'll tone it down.
I'm like, guys, out of my accent. Can't.
I love it.
Well, if it's okay.
It was just cool. It was just awesome.
Awesome. I think it's what it needs to happen. And people, with the first book study that we did, we said this is something that's going to change it's going to help change the mindset, because that's what needs to happen. Everybody has been saying that. We didn't say that. We didn't invent that. But people have been saying for a long time, we need to look at our ESL kids as asset-based versus deficit-based. Well, we pay lip service to that a lot. But what do we mean by that? Mm-hmm. How are you showing their assets? So it was a huge honor for me to write a book about a demographic. If the ESL students feel marginalized, this group that's off level and missing education, imagine how marginalized they feel. So if we can build them up and show that they can participate in any class where the teacher understands how to give them a voice while they're, and participate while we're giving them literacy over in my classroom. If we can do that, then that has to change the mindset for a huge percentage of, for all ESL kids, and lump the kids in there like me who were disengaged because they were off level. And there's so many things. That's why I'm excited about it too, because it was the teachers who read it and started actually coming out on social media and getting together, because we can amplify our voice that way. And we need to be loud because there's too many things that will sound negative about it. We have to compete with that.
Yeah.
One of the things that you know is I hear you about the loud part, but I don't even know that we need to be loud. We just need to say it. We need to say it a lot, and people. By the way, Carol, I think I met you through Derek.
Yeah.
And yeah, and because I went and heard that first podcast, and Tan, I wish Tan were here, but
yeah.
Where was I going with this? But that we need to say it over and over and over. Oh, I know where I was going. So Twitter is this giant river of information that's going by, and so people can either dip in, take a little bit, or they can take a lot. But we need to say it over and over and over because people just don't hear it. They're busy and they're getting pizza money and there's a kid fighting outside. But you need because sometimes they're not ready, right? And you have to say it again and again and again and again and again. And then finally, one time they go, oh, yeah, you're right. So, the fact that we have to make comprehensible input, we have to give them chances to internalize. We have to give them wait time, because sometimes they hear it, sometimes they don't. So, with the people I work with, it's not that they're not listening. It's just that they're busy people and they have to hear it so many times.
Yeah. I agree with that.
And also, I think it's important to say that our actions could speak louder than our words. I think a lot of times I don't get to talk to a lot of my teachers. They all have their schedules, but they see the passion. They see how I do the meetings with our Hispanic parents. They see how I try to get my students to highlight their strengths. And when they see that passion, they're going to ask, why are you doing this? And then that's how the conversations begin. I think our actions and the way we treat our own students speak louder than our words. Yes, we do need to do professional developments. We do need to share our thoughts with them, but how we present our passion is just completely powerful for me.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I agree. And I think we present that way because now, like I said, I've seen Emily present, I've seen Katie, I've seen Michelle and Allison too. And when you model things like Allison was writing in here in the chat that when you call on kids a certain way, the way I was talking about, you give them time to discuss ideas and process learning and build ideas before you call on them. When you do that with a group of teachers in any kind of staff development, it's kind of an experience that you can map right back to, well, you see how you're not even struggling with the language right now. And that is critical for language learners, but this isn't even about language, it's about learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody, when you do it like that, then anybody can participate. And when anybody can participate, but it's also good for your GT and good for your this and that, then content teachers sit up because they're just busy, just like Jeffrey said. It's not that they don't want to do this. It just looks like one more thing, and they're very busy.
Yeah.
So I think we can give them a great gift by showing our passion, like Emily says, and always presenting in a way that gives them strategies to take back and try.
And I think too, it kind of goes to that collaboration piece. Like, you know, if it's, you know, it's not what's good for the L's, it's what's good for all the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, my strategies, may be focused for the ELL kids, but they're good strategies. And I think if anything, it might just help one struggling kid, no matter who they are. And, you know, that's kind of how I approach, you know, working with my co-teachers. And then they start to see, and then it sparks their ideas. And it's this organic learning process that kind of just happens. And it's like, you know, if I'm not there, they you know, they're not like, oh, what am I gonna do? Oh my God, I have a kid. Oh, like, because they feel empowered. So not only are we empowering our kids, we're empowering the teachers that we're working with.
Agreed.
And reminding people that academic language is really, it's a second language for most of us.
Yes.
Most of our kids don't come home and have academic conversations
Absolutely.
with their people.
Mhm. Yes.
So
Absolutely.
Well, I think it's great. I'm appreciative that you guys read the book. It's such a thrill for me to get to ride along and see the posts and the book snaps and the things like that, because a lot of times it reminds me of something that I need to go back and do again, or I just hadn't thought about it that way. So it's the best professional development for me. So anybody out there listening, I know there's new book studies starting up in districts all over the place. I just Skyped with Bryan College Station here in Texas that they're going to do it for 5 months. They're going to do the book study for 5 months. I was like, 5 months? It'll take 1 week. Look at this one. Look at this small book. But you know, I love that because there's so much packed, I think, into this easy read. That's why we did it over 5 weeks, so you could really process the different parts of it. But when they asked me what I recommended, I said, well, I recommend you take a couple of days and read the whole thing. It's a very easy read.
Mm-hmm.
And then yes, go ahead and do your 5-month study, because they want to really, with their real kids, like try things, come back, talk about it as a group of teachers, and so it sounds fabulous. But I would hate for them not to know what's about language experience approach until 5 months from now. You know, that's in the very back of the book. Or so I said, please just read it all so that you know where things are that you might want to bounce around. And so shout out to anybody who's doing the book study. And I'd love
tomorrow.
You are? Are y'all starting yet?
They tried to do triple essay. They're reporting tomorrow on how it went.
Oh my God.
And we're trying social contracts when we come back in January.
Yeah.
To
I love it.
semester.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think what we should do, we should do a strategy podcast where each person talks about a strategy they've done in their classroom and maybe share how it's worked.
That's great.
Maybe do like just, you know.
I have a podcast. We can do it online. Let's do it.
Whatever, man.
Let's do it. Let's do it, because there's always pitfalls to every single strategy. You know, they fall flat. They didn't work because of something. And it's never, you know, strategies like the ones we put in there, it's usually there's some way that it's kind of out of order, or the conditions weren't right, or something different about this one particular student you might need to work with. So it's well worth putting out there the real challenges with strategies too. Yeah. Because sometimes I'd be down.
Like I said, I did the roving paragraph kind of, but I modified it to kind of meet the needs, but it had the right idea. So kind of that kind of stuff would be kind of cool, because like I look at Emily's stuff that you do all the time on elementary school. I'm like, how can I do that for 18-year-olds?
And right, with Romeo and Juliet.
You know, to Katie Gardner, I shared her the thing she did with the flip books, Emily, with the QR.
Yes.
And it blew the elementary school teachers' minds, blew their minds. And I'm like, listen.
Well, that's not hard. That's not hard.
Stop it.
Listen, I was like, you have this thing called a phone, and this is what
Pull it out.
but they were like, this is so cool. And no joke, the next day I got a video of someone trying it. I'm like, see, it took just someone just changing your mind, and this is what my research is about, dissertation.
Yeah.
You know how to teach your content. You know how to teach. So why, when we input technology, do we forget those other two things? We forget that, oh, wow, I actually know how to teach a kid how to read. I know how to teach studies. Oh, I have an iPad. Oh, my God. I forgot how to do everything. So it's very true. And I don't know if anybody else experiences that, but this is just awesome. And I'm glad I did this tonight. This is what
me too.
Thank you guys so much. Oh, well, we have to get together again. What are the conferences coming up where we all need to be at? NCTE.
You guys should come up.
The window open right now.
We're having the local ESL conference. That's the one that it's at Andrea Honingsfeld's college that she runs.
When are the requests for proposals? When?
I'll send the link in for you.
Please.
And it's on a Saturday. It's at Malloy College. It's cheap. And if I told them that you guys were coming, they'd be like, yeah. They asked me to present. I'm going to be presenting. I'll be there.
Whee!
So I sent the link. But yeah, that's coming up. Andrea's running it. I think probably her co-author of Maria Dove might be there. So that might be one to check out.
Okay, and then we have a great one in Texas. The proposals and all, it's all done, but it is next month. If anybody like Tami, it's up in Dallas, Fort Worth, but it's what's working in Texas, and I'm so excited because so many teachers from across the state are coming to show the things that are really working for ELLs, and it's always one of those conferences that, you know, John goes through and looks at all the proposals, and they're really innovative ideas, and it's just going to be a great conference in January. So
yeah, we're planning on going for that, hopefully. So
you are coming?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Some of my students are going to be the keynotes, and so I'm very excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, we should wrap it up because it's been an hour. Is it okay with all of you guys? This is probably going to be the podcast, the Boosting Achievement podcast for this week.
Oh no! Oh wow!
So,
yay! We didn't sign for that.
Oh, no, that's why I'm asking you now. But I don't think we did anything that required visuals too much. I think this is fine as audio if I can get it. I might be able to get it. I might not. If I can get the audio, just send me. I really don't want it to be message if you don't want it to be. Okay.
Oh no, I think it's hilarious.
Okay. People give us grace. We're passionate. All right. Well, and in the show notes, I hope I can get these chat things. You guys have a lot of things like Katie Gardner and Katie Topple. You're sharing stuff here in the chat. If I don't have access to that, would you guys mind sending me that, and then I can put them in the show notes? So people who listen to the podcast can have all these cool links that, you know, Alison is showing us cool stuff, and the WIDA stuff, the WIDA conference, all these conferences that we should all come to together. All right. Then I guess we should say goodbye. I want to thank each and every one of you. And I think I will be tapping you to be guests on the podcast in the future. So be prepared for that as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, guys. Everybody say bye on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh,
Bye. Bye. Bye.